All right, here's a little taster of Foundation Day, our Foundation Day workshop. One of the 5 principles we cover is understanding the big picture. Why? Well, we see a lot of founders tend to go to their comfort zone. If you're a coder, you know this means that as soon as the option comes up to write something, as soon as there's an idea of a solution, of a feature, you immediately start thinking about how you're going to write it. You immediately start thinking about how it's going to scale. You start thinking about all the technical stuff of how to put it together. Right? We've seen it with design people. Design people are very good at spotting real deep customer needs. But from there, they then set the next learning goal, frame it from a UX perspective. In a lot of cases, getting that need right is important, but the next step isn't to focus on the nitty-gritty of the design. There's other aspects of the business which are more important, which you need to get right. We've seen this with analytical people, very good at crunching the numbers, but sometimes it makes sense to go and talk to customers, but they don't. Right? We go back to our comfort zone. We go back to looking at the data again. What effectively we're doing is obsessing over the details. From the point of view of our business, we're missing the big picture. Let's take a look at one of my startups. 10 years ago, I co-founded Dive Tank. We were selling scuba gear online. We had a really good conversion rate. We hit our 1-year revenue goal within 2 months of launching. We really understood our customers. We really understood how to sell to them. But did it really make a business? No, in the end, and the end came far too late. But within a few months even, we started to realize that things weren't going as well as we'd expected from our great start. So what went wrong? How could we have spotted that sooner? We had a big picture problem and we didn't realize it. So in Foundation Day and F Day, we cover 3 ways to see the big picture. One is prototyping business models, the other is looking at pirate metrics, and the third is understanding your growth engines. The business model canvas is a great way to see your entire business model. It's a way to zoom out and see the big picture. Now let's take a look at Dive Tank. Dive Tank had holes in the business model. This is the business model canvas. If you look at the middle, the value proposition, we got that right. We really understood what it took for customers to buy scuba gear online. One of the things when you're buying gear, especially things like wetsuits and dry suits, typically if you buy your wetsuit or dry suit from one provider, you'll buy the rest of your gear from them. But getting the fit right is very important. I can't remember now off the top of my head, around 15 measurements you need to get right. Otherwise the suit won't fit properly. This is a real big concern. We guaranteed fit. We found a way to guarantee fit to customers. We found ways to get better relationships over email so that customers were more confident to buy off the web from us. Again, this is 10 years ago. We found ways to have a really good customer relationship, just like Zappos did years later. If we weren't sure about the size, we'd send you 2 suits. If one didn't fit, send it back. We'd make sure you were happy that way. The problem with the business, what ended up killing us, was our warehousing costs. So my co-founder already had a warehouse, and he had a bricks and mortar business selling scuba gear. They were a key partner. This warehouse was a key partner, and because the warehouse had problems, we ended up having problems. We had cost problems, warehousing and inventory costs were too high, and we started to spot over time that things weren't working out as well as possible. So we could have been looking at our business model and seeing what wasn't working and focusing our time there. And how would we have done that? By prototyping business models, right? By looking at different options. So Alex Osterwalder teaches in his workshops, and we teach in Foundation Day, to prototype business models. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Quickly come up with one business model idea, however wacky. We give you lots of prompts and ways to look in different directions. But at the end of that 3 minutes, put that model aside and move on to the next. Come up with a different idea. Do that very quickly, and you start to spot your different options. You start to see that you're not caught in this rut, that maybe there are different ways of getting to market, different ways of growing the business that don't depend on this warehouse, right? Another way to look at it is knowing your numbers. So Dave McClure came up with pirate metrics. 5 numbers, key numbers that if you get them right, you're very likely to get your startup right. So the first is acquisition. How do customers become aware of you? How do they get to you? Then is activation. From the fact that they're aware, from the point of time where they're aware of you, how do they then become a customer, and how do they become an active customer? That's another key number. It's a rate that you can get right. Retention. So especially with subscription models, but in a lot of different models, for instance, marketplace businesses, getting customer retention right is very important. Right? You need to make sure your customers stick around, otherwise you don't have a business. Another key number to look at is your referral rate. And the last is revenue. Now with Dive Tank, we got revenue right. We were very focused on revenue. But if we had looked at our other numbers, if we had looked at, say, retention and referral, we would have started to see a problem there. And if we were using Pirate Metrics, we would have been able to go back and say, okay, actually, you know what, our referral rate isn't as high as we need it to be. There's something wrong here. Now we've got revenue right, let's look at referral. Eric Ries frames numbers from the point of view of what is the one key formula that will make your business grow. How do you get repeatable growth out of your business? If you can get that one thing right, you can be very confident you can grow your business. And he comes up with 3 growth engines in his book, The Lean Startup. The first is stickiness. Now this is related to retention. Basically, when your business depends on customers sticking around, what you can do is you can manage your churn rate. You can manage the rate at which your customers leave, right? You can if you're losing 5% of your customers per month, you can work on making that 4%. Now, if you're naturally acquiring a certain number of customers every month, if your natural growth rate just through word of mouth is, say, 5%, then if your churn rate is lower than 5%, your net growth will be 1%. You will then grow at a compounding rate of 1% per month. You're growing. If you're not getting that right, you're actually shrinking your business at a compounding rate. Now, not all businesses are dependent on retention. In a lot of cases, it's paid acquisition, and this is a very simple formula. How much does it cost to acquire a customer, whether it's through advertising, whether it's through sales, and how much does that customer profit the business? As long as you can acquire customers more cheaply than they put money in the bank, then you are growing. You can reinvest your profits into acquiring new customers. And the last growth engine is viral. So if there's some use of your product that causes people to share or get other people involved in the use and causes them to become customers, then there's a formula called a viral coefficient. You can look this up online. It's a fairly simple spreadsheet, and you can measure the viral coefficient. So you can measure the rate at which people are sharing and measure the rate at which their behavior means new customers come on board. If your viral coefficient is over 1, then you will grow. If it's less than 1, your viral growth will fizzle out very soon. Again, all of these ways are ways to look at the big picture. If we were looking at this with Dive Tank, we would have known that our growth engine was paid acquisition, and we would have started to realize, because the costs were creeping up, because the profit per customer wasn't as high as it ought to be because of our warehouse costs, that the formula, our paid acquisition formula, wasn't panning out, and we would have known at that point what we need to work on. So again, this is one of 5 principles we cover: understanding the big picture, making sure you're working on the right thing. If you want to know more, please check out Founder Centric. We're running workshops every other month in London and actually around Europe at the moment. So please check it out there. Thanks.